Your favorite artists. New music discovery. Candid conversations, unfiltered. Loudmouth, little lady, lots of music history. Broadcasting live from New Jersey, it's the Carr Stereo Podcast with Terrie Carr.
It's Terrie Carr, and this is the Carr Stereo Podcast. Welcome! I'm so excited to have you join me for another episode in Season 2. And by the way, if you like the cast, please subscribe. I'll have some special announcements for subscribers to my YouTube channel coming soon, so stay tuned. Hey, there's nothing I love better than picking the brain of brilliance. And I got the chance to do that when guitar master Paul Gilbert joined me to discuss his 19th solo release, WROC, or ROC, which stands for Washington's Rules of Civility. Music hasn't caught up to Paul quite yet. And not only is he a genius musician, but a funny, entertaining character too. We discuss his early days, hearing loss, why he lost his teaching gig, and the one artist he regrets not playing in studio with. Whether you loved Paul in Racer X, Mr. Big, solo, or whatever he's done, you'll definitely love getting to know the incredible Paul Gilbert on the Carr Stereo Podcast. So yeah, did I fangirl when he first zoomed in? Guilty as charged. I am with Grandpa Shred, the one and only Paul Gilbert. It is so great to see you. I mean, where do we start? So, you know him from Racer X, you know him from Mr. Big. I think we're coming on the 19th solo record, G3. Maybe people saw you on G3. You, my friend, are the GOAT. You are getting everything I think that you deserve now, and you're like our guitar hero. You're the guy. You know that, right?
Well, that's a very nice compliment, and I just still love to play. I love to play drums too. I get up every morning and play the drums for about 20 minutes.
Do you?
And then hopefully I have some time for guitar later on in the day.
Well, here's what I love so much about your playing. People are always like shred, technique, feel. What you have everything, and I think that when I watch you, there's this joy and personality that comes out that nothing against anyone else. Not everybody else has it. I think you encompass everything. And I think that we feel what you're feeling, if that makes any sense at all. And I've seen in interviews in the past, and I love that you said this, so I would like to be able to ask you about this. You said when you hear a guitar player, you can always hear a truth kind of coming out. So elaborate on that, because now that I get to ask you that, I'd love to really hear what that means for you.
Yeah. Well, not just guitar players, but any musician, I get a sense of if the thing that they're playing is matching up with what they're hearing in their head. And not all music has to do that. You know, if you're playing a symphony, you know, you don't want to start improvising because it's not going to work with 40 musicians on the stage. You know, in that case, you have to rehearse and you have to bring what you rehearse on stage, and hopefully that works. But anything where there's improvisation going on, there's, you know, if you've played your instrument for a long time, if you're a guitar player, you know, you can move your fingers through familiar patterns, and it'll be beautiful. It'll be comfortable. It'll have a virtuoso feeling to it. But there's that thing of being in the moment and not playing what you rehearsed three weeks ago or 3 years ago, but playing what you hear in your head at that very moment. And it's a different skill set to develop that. But when you get it right, it feels so good. Really, my best moments, you know, of personal musical fulfillment are when, first of all, I've got something in my head. Because to be honest, sometimes there's nothing.
No, I can't believe that. Is that true? Really? Sometimes there's actually nothing in Paul Gilbert's head?
Yeah, that's a good thing to be honest about. Like I
Absolutely.
listened, there was nothing in my head. Like, you know, and then maybe then if you're honest, you just stop and you wait and you listen and you see what the other people were playing, or you check into your emotions, or you know, and you know, rather than just like, okay, my fingers just have to do this thing that I've been working on. So it's that's where I talk about, you know, telling the truth in the moment about what you're hearing in your head.
Yeah.
And when I hear, you know, people that I consider to be great improvisers, a lot of times I'll listen to people that are blues players or jazz players, or B.B. King or Johnny Hodges, the sax player, I get a sense that they're really telling the truth. And not all music has to do that. When I hear a band like Queensryche, there's not a lot of improvisation, and there shouldn't be. Those songs are structured, they're worked out. It wouldn't make them better to improvise. They're such good composers that that's that particular art form. And with my stuff, it goes back and forth. There's within a song, there certainly are things that are structured, and I want to play those like they should be. And then I may have a part where I can be in the moment a little more.
And I think I also read that you said, as a kid growing up, the blues didn't really move me the way it moves me now. Now I listen to it very differently than I listened to it when I just started playing guitar.
Yeah. Well, it's because of that. Although I have to say, like, the guitar players that I enjoyed the most and got the most from all had blues in their DNA. When I listen to Hendrix is blues with a louder amplifier, and and maybe a more fiery mood, but there's so much blues in his his touch.
Yeah,
and really, even Van Halen, as much as people consider or Yngwie. Yngwie's, he's playing Phrygian dominant scales and on the face of it, it's very metal, but his touch to me really is very connected to what you get from blues, and that's the thing. I love the touch of it. That's part of guitar, whereas on like a piano, so much of the touch is sort of pre-programmed because of the nature of the instrument, and guitar, for better or for worse, that pulls that out of the player.
We have a love affair with guitar. I have them in my house. I don't play. I've tried. It's just not something I can do. I have tried. I had Bumblefoot actually try to give me a lesson once, and I felt sorry for him after like 20 minutes. I'm like, dude, I really appreciate you giving me the Swiss cheese guitar to try to play on, but it's just not going to happen. I mean, but we have a love affair with it. There's something about the guitar that's very different from other instruments. You've got an amazing record out too. WROC. I mean, it's coming. I've had the stream and I can't stop listening to it. I've been listening to it since I got some early stream stuff in November. It's incredible. Oh my gosh. It's so like interesting and fun because everything you do has that kind of Paul Gilbert fun to it. Your first vocal record in 10 years. And it's inspired by is the best way to say it, Washington's Rules of Civility, which basically is decency in a freaking nutshell, for lack of a better. That's how we say it in Jersey. Decency in a freaking nutshell. You said I used George Washington as kind of my Bernie Taupin, to me being the Elton John with the music. Now, Paul, did this come to you in a dream? Like, where would you come up with this, Paul Gilbert? This is you and only you.
Well, I don't know exactly how the tar pits of my mind, how things float up to the surface. But I had read the Rules of Civility decades ago.
And Washington didn't write it, by the way. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, this was not written by George Washington.
Yeah, it was written, and I didn't know that. But having done the record, I researched a bit, and the original writing was French Jesuit scholars in the late 1500s, and it became a popular etiquette manual. If you're trying to behave like a well-behaved person. You
don't want to be Mr. Bungle. You want to be right.
Yeah, you read this French manual, and then that got translated to English 100 years later. Now, 100 years later, we're still 1695. And then that makes it across the water, and George Washington's high school teacher, whoever that was, gave it to young George as a penmanship exercise. So George is working on his handwriting, but he also read the meaning of them, and I guess used it to try to form how he held himself, and he would, and of all those people, in that progression, he was the most famous. So that's the advantage of fame, is you get your name put on it even if you didn't write it, and so decades ago I had read these rules, and I was just laughing to myself because of when I first saw, like, okay, this is going to be a list of rules of etiquette of how to behave better. I thought, oh, I'll be able to follow these. I'm a well-behaved person. And I started reading them. I'm like, well, no, I couldn't do that one. And I read another. No, that's too hard. And I was just laughing at what a ruffian I realized I am.
Oh
Um,
gosh.
but I thought, I can aspire to self improve. So anyway, that was 25 years ago. And then after the last Mr. Big show in Japan, I'm on the plane. I've got 10 hours to think because you're stuck on the plane. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to get home. I'm going to do a new album. What should it be about? And I thought, I don't want it to be about me. I'm either bored of myself or I just not that interested in whatever ideas I'm coming up with. Nobody wants to hear that. So I thought, if I only had my own Bernie Taupin, and it somehow the Washington book floated into my mind. And I had AI on my phone, so I started having a conversation, like, well, take one of those Washington rules and turn it into a blues lyric. And in 5 seconds that I had one, and I read it. I thought, well, that's pretty good, but and then my songwriting instincts kick in. The chorus needs to have shorter and more repeats, and the bridge needs to be different. But I started writing lyrics, and I was really having a good time just with the lyrics. I got home, picked up a guitar, and started coming up with a melody, and I was just it had momentum, but then I thought, okay, well, it's got momentum. I'm loving this, but am I out of my mind?
Yeah,
It's too weird. So I called up a couple of musician friends of mine. I said, I want to do an album. I've got a couple songs written. Come over and let's make a demo and rehearse it and see what you think. And so I was watching them very closely. I'm watching their eyes and I'm watching their mouth. And I'm going like, are they going to frown and like look at the ground in embarrassment, or are they going to smile and dig it and light up? And they smiled and lit up and dug it. And so I thought, okay, well, that's, 3 human beings that like it. And from there, I just, kept charging through.
Amazing, just amazing. Like the mind of Paul Gilbert. And you were able to put all your kind of Paul Gilbertness into it too, because it's whimsical. There's a humility in it. You always have a way of not taking yourself so seriously, even though you're a friggin' genius. I mean, I can say that. You're gonna be like, oh yeah, but you are a genius. So there's just like I don't know how you kind of interwove all of this into this one kind of concept record. For those of you maybe who are just kind of seeing Paul, doing press and whatever, and he's got the Washington's hat on and stuff. That's of course the reason why. And it's really strange how lyrically all of this fits together so well. Like it doesn't sound dated. When you were talking about like George's high school teacher, I was like, George had a high school teacher? Nothing sounds dated, which is really something else that's kind of a mind blower when these things kind of come full circle,
Well, the first one of the first lines that I found when I was reading through the rules was just a short line: "Spit not in the fire." And I thought, man, what a line!
What a
"Spit
line!
Not in the fire." That's great. And I must have put that line in 3 different songs.
You could have called the record that even. Like that's an amazing line. Well, when I heard the first song released, which I think was "Go Not Thither," I think that was
Go
the
Not
first one.
Thither,
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm like, what is this going to sound like? And then, of course, that beautiful, amazing, melodic Paul Gilbert, green tinted 60s mind kind of break comes in. And I'm just like, oh man, I just knew that everything else that followed was going to be incredible. And I think this is one of the greatest records that you've put out.
Oh, thank you. I was really happy with it, both the process and the result. And again, primarily, I've spent the most time in my life being a guitar player, and the part of my brain that's a songwriter is really a different. I mean, of course, there's some relation.
And a vocalist too. Like I would imagine the vocal part is kind of separate too, because matching the vocals to guitar and making it all fit, and especially when you are the guitar player, that's a whole different sort of pocket or window for your mind to open up. No?
Yeah, well, I've got I've got 5 different jobs. I've got to be the guitar player, the songwriter, the singer, the guy who books the Airbnb for the drummer, and I've got to be the person who orders the Washington suit, and measures myself to make sure that the waist is the right size.
Oh my God.
It's a lot of responsibility, but the songwriting part, I made kind of a list in my head of what is the most important goal. What's the beacon that I'm following, and it's melody.
Yeah.
And I thought I would tell myself, trust the melody, and sometimes, I would be making a decision with songwriting. Like I'd be playing some chords that aren't metal. I'd be like playing some Joni Mitchell chords, and I'm thinking like, I don't know, the metal people might hear those Joni Mitchell chords, and they might run, they might frown.
There may be a revolt. There may be the tiki torches coming through the town.
but they fit the melody.
Yeah.
And so ultimately I just made that decision. Like wherever the melody takes me, I'm going to follow it. And I really believe that works.
Paul, no one is questioning where you're going on these songs, because that's the beauty of what we know we are going to get back from you. I mean, I want to go back to the beginning too. And I spoke with somebody about this recently. I talked a little bit about Mike Varney from Shrapnel Records. And that's kind of how you started. And I said, I don't think Mike really kind of gets the credit he deserves. He was kind of this visionary of like, let's let these guitar players alone at times without a band be stars. And I think that you had a really early relationship in your teens with Mike. What did he do for you as an artist? How did he like sort of help to kind of move you along and shape you and give you advice?
Well, Mike was my first connection in the music business.
Yeah.
So I was incredibly excited. I was still a teenager. And I think the first time I sent him a tape, I was 15. So, and I'm living in a small town in Pennsylvania. So to have a phone call from somebody in California who had a record label, I was walking on air. Then once I got a band together and I started sending him music, Mike would always call me up and he said, "Yeah, I got your cassette." He said, "It needs more solos and more fills. Just go crazy." He said, "You have your whole life to join a popular, band that does pop, has pop hits." He says, "Now is the time to just go crazy." And because actually that wasn't really my instinct. My instinct was I wanted to have a band with good songs and a band like Van Halen, as much as Eddie might be considered a shredder, if you listen to Eddie Van Halen's solos, they're really short. And most of the song is like got the Michael Anthony harmonies and the David Lee Roth vocals, and it's like, Dance the Night Away, and the actual guitar solo is really short.
Yep.
So Mike was like, make it longer, put in more fills, go crazy, and that's even though that may not have been my 100% instinct, it was a wonderful request. I certainly had fun trying to make that happen. And, and the result was good. It is attention getting, and it's nice having done that to sort of go, okay, this is what it sounds like when I do that. I know what that feels like. And, and now I can sort of balance that out however I want. If I want to do that, I can. If I want to do something that's more about the melody, I can do that. And hopefully have a mix of both.
He definitely helped, I think, to reinvigorate the solo guitar hero and, get that interest from people. I remember getting, a lot of those records that he put out when my early days in radio and, putting them on metal shows because that was kind of the best place for them to go. And I just kind of think he's somebody that doesn't get the credit that he deserves for not only just introducing us, but shaping a lot of artists. I've talked to a lot of artists where, I told Mike, I want to be in a band. And Mike's like, no, do this. And so I just wanted to kind of bring him into the equation. And you also talk about Eddie Van Halen.
Well, I got to go to 5150 for an afternoon.
Yeah.
Because we did a Mr. Big tour where the Rudy, who's Eddie's tech, was my tech for the Mr. Big tour. And at the end of it, Rudy said, Eddie's kind of interested in borrowing your amp. I said, sure. So Rudy lent my amp. And then one day I come home and there's a message on my machine, and it's Eddie, and he's going, "Hey, Paul, I've got your amp. If you want to pick it up, and then if you want to come by the studio and hang out, let me know." And I'm like, well, I do want to come by the studio and hang out. So my regret is that we didn't pick up guitars. We just played demos for each other and talked. Still had a wonderful time. But if I could go back, I would say, like, Eddie, enough recordings. Let's pick up guitars and jam a bit. Yeah. But he was great. It was amazing to sit next to my hero and just be there that close. Because certainly, I grew up watching him through binoculars, on the early Van Halen tours.
Me too. I got my Van Halen Highway sign back there. And as I said, yeah, I was at every Van Halen tour as a kid. That's what we did in Jersey. We drank beer nips. We went to Van Halen concerts. We played Van Halen records. And then we waited for them to announce the next tour a year and a half later, because that's how music was then, where artists were just like album tour, album tour, album tour, album tour. So yeah, growing up a Van Halen kid, yeah, I can imagine that. But I mean, he had such amazing respect for you as a player, which is incredible.
I don't even that's inconceivable. I mean, it just it's interesting when you sort of revere someone as otherworldly. It's like from having that experience, seeing him on stage when I was a kid, he's, to me, he's just on another level.
Yeah.
In my head,
on another planet. And also, you were an early pioneer of doing instructional videos. People weren't really doing that stuff, and you kind of started that, I guess, 80s, 90s, doing that for other musicians, which is really impactful. I have, friends of mine that are like, "Oh, I got all the Paul Gilbert VHS. I still have them. I still have a lot of the VHS tapes. I don't have a VCR anymore to play them in, but they're incredible." Why was that important to you? Why did you think that would be something that you wanted to do?
Well, that was the first time I got a big advance for something.
Really?
So financially, it was important. Like I that was the first month when I had something left over after paying rent. I'd already been teaching, because I was a student at GIT. It was a guitar school, and that was my ticket to move out of Pennsylvania and go to LA. So as a student, I was there. It was a 1-year course, and after I graduated, I got a job teaching. And again, my goal wasn't to be, I wanted to be a rock star, but teaching paid the rent. And I wasn't paying rent with the gigs yet. And I love teaching. I get to hang out in the school because there were so many great musicians, and it was a great vibe to just be in a building with so many musicians, not just guitar players, but bass players and drummers, and it was just exciting to be there. So, in a way, I still got to go to the school, but instead of having to pay the money, now I'd get some money for teaching, and so I taught there for probably, I don't know, maybe 2.5 years before Mr. Big got so busy that I had to leave. But during that time, I learned more about teaching and got sort of a vocabulary of how and what to teach. And so, it was really easy to translate that into the video, because basically I just show what I'm showing the kids at GIT. And I really, I was a little worried about it, because I thought, I don't want my image to be a teacher.
Yeah. Because
at that time, I still wanted to be cool. I've given that up. Now I know there's no hope. There's no hope of being cool.
No, so, you've reinvented a new pocket of cool. There's no doubt about that.
I'll teach all day. I've got no cool image to protect. And I've generally loved teaching. To me, it's interesting to. It's just interesting to communicate with other musicians.
Because you're an easy communicator. You're such an easy communicator, and just chatting with you, you're very easy. So I would imagine that this would have been such an impact for the students who were learning from you, because you are, again, a genius, yet you come across as intimidating and not dictatorial. Who would not want to take lessons from Paul Gilbert? You've got that sort of, again, like I said, self-deprecating and really fun, and you're a very warm person. So I would imagine that teaching was something that you were really, really good at.
I mean, people responded well to it.
Yeah.
And it's funny. The only time at GIT, I got fired from a class once,
What'd you do?
which surprised me because I got called to the office,
Oh
and
no.
I thought like I bet they're gonna give me a trophy because I've been doing such a good job. Like I was going to the office with I was very optimistic that I was gonna get some reward, and my boss, he said, Paul, we've been getting a lot of complaints. And I was completely shocked. The complaints, I thought I was doing one of the. And he said the students say that they don't know what to do because you're showing them the assignment from the school, and then you're showing them all this other stuff, and they don't know. It's like they're overwhelming them. And I hadn't thought about that. I thought this, the more you give, the better it is. And it was like if you're at a restaurant, people you can only eat so much.
Yeah.
At a certain point, it's like I'm full. I'll come back tomorrow. But and I was kind of like over just pouring
It takes us back to the first question that you answered from me, because when I said, oh, there you incorporate this magic and blah blah blah, and you said, yeah, because I want to make sure I get the technical in, but then I get lost and I have a moment where nothing's coming out, and then all of a sudden something comes out. So that obviously translated over to your teaching.
Yeah, well, I think I wasn't paying attention to the students as much. I've learned to connect more.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I teach now, I really try to listen to the student first, and I try to make whatever I show them because of what I heard. In other words, I don't just come like, okay, I brought this thing, and no matter what, I'm going to show this to you because I like it. Instead of that, no, I'm coming, and my first job is to listen, and then my reaction is what we're going to work on, and that makes the person feel like they exist, because it becomes a connection and a communication rather than me just ranting.
Yeah,
because I can rant.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And they must have felt so cool because here's like the guy that's like, the Racer X guy, and then he's like teaching, and like that's incredibly cool. Also, I wanted to bring this up too. So before I let you go, you've been so open about hearing loss, your journey with hearing loss and speech, how it's affected your music, how it's affected your life. You're a ambassador for a hearing aid company, and you just talked about how in the beginning I didn't really know if I kind of wanted to be associated with this, and then all of a sudden it really kind of changed my life. That, my friend, is super impactful, because I don't know how you would have continued a musical career had you not had that be a part of this journey that you're on.
Well, I'll never forget the first day when I got a hearing test and it was bad news. And
did you know? You must have known something was going on, or?
No, I went because I started to notice, it was actually, I had my head, I had one of my ears on a pillow, and I could understand the dialogue on TV, and I put my other ear on the pillow and I couldn't. And also, like, I would sort of rub my fingers together and I could hear it in one ear and I couldn't hear it the other. So I went in to get a test, and it was like way worse. It's called an audiogram. It's basically like an EQ curve of your hearing. And I saw it and I'm like, oh man, this is not good. And so my initial reaction was fear, because I thought, like, I'm a musician, it's all about sound.
Rightfully so.
Are my days numbered? Am I going to have to give up my love, my passion? And so I was, for a few days, I was depressed and scared. Now, decades have gone by, and if I could go back and talk to myself on that day, I'd say, well, the good news is somehow music has been one of the easiest things to continue to do and perceive. It's just the nature of notes and rhythms. Those things are actually easier to hear. The challenge is speech. And, through hearing aids, and also through just knowing how to navigate, knowing what situations are difficult and avoiding those, and, or using, the hearing aids or the microphone that comes with it, you can make improvements. And so, it's not, and also I found with not just hearing, but with anything physical. I mean, we're human beings have limitations with everything. I mean, sometimes when I'm teaching, I'll realize that I've got much bigger hands than the student, but I also think like my fingers are not infinitely long. There's an end. I'm limited too. I can't do everything. Nobody can, and so if you have a limitation, it doesn't mean that you have to stop. It doesn't mean everything stops. You work within those limitations. Even Michael Phelps, when he was the best swimmer in the world, he can't swim infinitely fast. He's even the best people have limitations, and so whatever those are, you work within them, and and often that process of working through something, you'll make discoveries that are actually lead to a better result than if you didn't have a limitation in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you're going out on the road? I'm excited. We've got 2 dates. I'm in the Jersey area, not far from New York City. We've got 2 area dates for me. So I get to choose from the Iridium on May 1st, which is a fabulous room, and also Debonair Music Hall on May 9th, which is very close to me. I'm always going to Debonair, doing a lot of stuff at Debonair. Love that place. When I saw you on their schedule, I literally hit up the booker there and I was like, you have Paul Gilbert coming? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, why didn't you tell me this? So I'm so excited that you're taking this project, WROC, out on the road. How cool is this going to be for you? And talk to me about the band. Who's going to be with you on this? Is this going to be the band that you did this record with?
It's the same band that's on the record.
With
one exception. Nick DiVirgilio, who I love on drums.
The drummer, yeah.
He's one of the busiest drummers in the world.
Yeah,
so
right.
It didn't work with his schedule. So I got Jeff Martin, who's actually the singer of Racer X. So the harmonies are going to be amazing. And he's an awesome drummer. He's played with my band before. He's played with Badlands and UFO.
Oh, terrific. Amazing.
So that's gonna be
he's
great.
so good on those Racer X records. Oh, incredible. Incredible. Well, I will be at those shows for sure. And I'm so excited to get to see you live. This is going to be like a highlight for me. I told you I was stalking you at NAMM. I was actually stalking you online because I love to see everything that's going on at the NAMM convention. And I saw you and Steve Morse at the Ernie Ball booth, and you guys were just so incredible together. And that just looked like such a great time. Was it as great a time as it looked? This year seemed, for people that were at NAMM, just like bigger than ever this year. For some reason, it felt like everybody was there doing something.
The energy was really good.
Yeah.
I found myself just walking around and attacking people with hugs. I saw Nuno and he's in the middle of an interview, and I just run up and destroy the interview and give him a giant hug.
I saw you with Jared James Nichols. He's also somebody that I love. I just got the stream for his new record. That's going to be weekend listening for me. He's such a tremendous player. Oh my God, when he breaks into it, and he's standing next to you, and I'm wondering if he's going to try to bench press Paul, because he's like such a Hulk. He's huge. But it just looks.
I should say that the thinking about Jared, I'm about 6'3", so it's rare when I look up to somebody, and Jared's one of them. And the other guy I look up to is Greg Koch, who's actually my opener on the tour.
Oh wow!
And I specifically asked him because I don't know if everybody knows Greg Koch, but he's an amazing guitar player, and I've done some work at guitar camps with him before, and I just love his playing. So I'm really excited to have him as the support for the whole tour, and I'll probably try to bring him on stage for some jams as well.
Oh, so incredible. So incredible. Paul, this has made my month, just having the chance to pick your brain about music. My God, I can't think of anything better. Such a treat. I'm humbled. I'm honored. Paul Gilbert, thank you so much. New record is coming. It's WROC, WROC, Grandpa Shred. It's been amazing just to have you on the Carr Stereo podcast. Thank you, my friend. It's been wonderful, and I can't wait to see you live.
Thank you so much. We'll see you pretty soon.
Don't forget to like this podcast and subscribe to the Carr Stereo page on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Rob Moorhead. TC and I will see you next time.